I hope you've had a good week, everyone. Welcome to today's lesson. Before we begin, well done to everybody who's done their work and sent in pictures. It's been lovely to see what you've been getting on with. Keep up the good work. For today's lesson, the learning intention is to read for a range of purposes and to use dictionary to check the meaning of words. Press pause while you get paper, pencil or a pen, and a dictionary and ruler. Then neatly write your date and learning intention and we'll move on. In the past, you've heard of synonyms and antonyms. So, synonyms you will find in a thesaurus. And synonyms are words that mean the same as your chosen word. The opposite of synonym is an antonym. So an antonym is a word that has the opposite meaning. Here are some examples down the bottom. The first word is happy, and the synonyms are joyful, delighted, overjoyed. And the antonym for happy is sad. Next word, old, and the synonyms are elderly, decrepit, mature, and the opposite or the antonym is young. And the final word is smooth, and the synonyms are flat, uniform, horizontal, and the antonym is uneven. Pause here and see how many synonyms you can come up with for the word nice. For word work, we will focus on synonyms. And now we're going to look for synonyms or words that mean the same as said. I'm going to start with one column at a time. You can join in or you can pause after and have a go on your own with reading these synonyms for said. Affirm, announce, answer, argue, ask, assert, babble, bark, bawl, beg, bellow, blurt, boom. Cheer, chirp, chuckle, coax, complain, confess, croak, declare, demand, divulge, emphasize, exclaim, explain. Gasp, giggle, groan, growl, grumble, grunt, hint, inquire, insist, interrupt, joke, mock, mumble. Murmur, pester, plead, proclaim, question, recall, remark, reply, retort, roar, scold, scream, shriek. And the final column. Shudder, squeak, suggest, taunt, tease, urge, wail, whimper, whine, whisper, wonder, yawn, yell. Now that we've shared lots and lots of synonyms for said, remember said is dead. So here you have to fill in the blanks for the one-star task with other words than said. Once you've done it, check that it makes sense and then read your sentence out and underline the synonym for said. Don't forget you've got a word bank down the bottom, or you can look on the slide before this. Remember, write neatly and take pictures so you can share your work with us. For the two-star task, you have columns with different words: small, happy, beautiful, hungry, and silly. And you're going to find synonyms for each of those words. See how many you can come up with. And finally you've got sentences down the bottom. She was worried that she would not be invited to the party. Emma walked to the cinema to meet her friends. James said, "No, I hate peas. I'm not going to eat them." Grace thought how nice her birthday cake was as she ate it with her friends. Rose told her friends how good the Nemesis at Alton Towers was. "I was surprised when I won first prize in the poster competition." The large tractor held up all the traffic. Here you're going to find synonyms for the words that are underlined. Remember, press pause and take your time. Now, well done for having a go with all of that word work. Year 4. Let's carry on from where we left off with The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. Chapter 6. How does a China rabbit die? Can a China rabbit drown? Is my hat still on my head? These were the questions that Edward asked himself as he went sailing out over the blue sea. The sun was high in the sky, and from what seemed to be a very long way away, Edward heard Abilene call his name. "Edward!" she shouted. "Come back!" Come back? Of all the ridiculous things to shout, thought Edward. As he tumbled, ears over tail, through the air, he managed to catch one last glimpse of Abilene. She was standing on the deck of the ship, holding onto the railing with one hand. In her other hand was a lamp. No, it was a ball of fire. No, Edward realized it was his gold pocket watch that Abilene held in her hand. She was holding it up high, and it was reflecting the light of the sun. "My pocket watch," he thought. "I need that." And then Abilene disappeared from view, and the rabbit hit the water with such tremendous force that his hat blew off his head. That answers that question, thought Edward as he watched the hat dance away on the wind. And then he began to sink. He sank and sank and sank. He kept his eyes open the whole time, not because he was brave, but because he had no choice. His painted-on eyes witnessed the blue water turning to green, and then to blue again. They watched as it finally became as black as night. Edward went down and down. He said to himself, "If I am going to drown, certainly I ought to have done so by now." Far above him, the ocean liner, with Abilene aboard it, sailed blithely on, and the China rabbit landed, finally, on the ocean floor, face down, and there, with his head in the muck, he experienced his first genuine and true emotion. Edward Tulane was afraid. Chapter 7. He told himself that certainly Abilene would come and find him. This, Edward thought, is much like waiting for Abilene to come home from school. I will pretend that I am in the dining room of the house on Egypt Street, waiting for the little hand to move to the 3 and big hand to land on the 12. If only I had my watch, then I would know for sure. But it doesn't matter. She will be here soon, very soon. Hours passed, and then days, and weeks, and months. Abilene did not come. Edward, for lack of anything better to do, began to think. He thought about the stars. He remembered what they looked like from his bedroom window. What made them shine so brightly? He wondered. And were they still shining somewhere even though he could not see them? Never in my life, he thought, have I been further away from the stars than I am now. He considered, too, the fate of the beautiful princess who had become a warthog. Why had she become a warthog? Because the ugly witch turned her into one. That was why. And then the rabbit thought about Pellegrina. He felt in some way that he could not explain to himself that she was responsible for what had happened to him. It was almost as if she, and not the boys, who had thrown Edward overboard. She was like the witch in the story. No, she was the witch in the story. True, she did not turn him into a warthog, but just the same she was punishing him, although for what he could not say. On the 297th day of Edward's ordeal, a storm came. The storm was so powerful that it lifted Edward off the ocean floor and led him in a crazy, wild and spinning dance. The water pummeled him and lifted him up and shoved him back down. Help! thought Edward. The storm in its ferocity actually flung him all the way out to sea, and the rabbit glimpsed, for a moment, the light of an angry and bruised sky. The wind rushed through his ears. It sounded to him like Pellegrina laughing. But before he had time to appreciate being above water, he was tossed back down into the depths. Up and down, back and forth, he went until the storm wore itself out, and Edward saw that he was beginning, again, his slow descent to the ocean floor. "Oh, help me," he thought. "I can't go back there. Help me." But still, down he went, down, down, down. And then, suddenly, the great wide net of a fisherman reached out and grabbed the rabbit. The net lifted him higher and higher until there was an almost unbearable explosion of light, and Edward was back in the world, lying on the deck of a ship, surrounded by fish. "Ah, what's this?" said a voice. "Ain't no fish," said another voice. "That's for sure." The light was so brilliant that it was hard for Edward to see, but finally shapes appeared out of the light, and then faces. And Edward realized that he was looking up at two men, one young and one old. "Looks like some toy," said the grizzled old man. He bent and picked Edward up and held him by his front paws, considering him. "A rabbit, I reckon. It's got whiskers and rabbit ears, or the shape of rabbit ears at least." "Yeah, sure, a rabbit toy," said the younger man, and he turned away. "I'll take it home to Nellie. Let her fix it up and set it to rights. Give it to some child." The old man placed Edward carefully on a crate, positioning him so that he was sitting up and could look out at the sea. Edward appreciated the courtesy of this small gesture, but he was heartily sick of the ocean, and would have been satisfied never to set eyes on it again. "There you go," said the old man. As they made their way back to shore, Edward felt the sun on his face and the wind blowing through the little bit of fur left on his ears, and something filled his chest, a wonderful feeling. He was glad to be alive. "Look at that rabbit," the old man said. "Looks like it's enjoying the ride, don't it?" "I am," said the young man. In fact, Edward Tulane was so happy to be back among the living that he did not even take umbrage at being referred to as it. Now that was the end of chapter 7, we have our 1-star task, which is all about word classes. We've got nouns, adjectives, verbs, and adverbs in both the chapters. And beside each word class, you've got the definition. Nouns are a person, a place, or a thing. Adjective is describing word, and a verb is an action word. And we all know that adverbs give us more information. They tell us when, how, where, or how often something is done. Your task is to read and identify examples of nouns, adjectives, verbs, and adverbs from the text. Remember to write neatly and take pictures of your work to email them through to school. And this is what the 2-star task looks like. On the following slide, you have sentences. So you will draw this table in your book, and you're going to have to sort the relevant words from the next slide into the correct columns. And here is where you find the words. I'm going to go through each sentence. You can do it together or you can pause and do it after. It's up to you. Abilene balanced the watch on his left leg. It was Pellegrina who was responsible for Edward's existence. And Rosie, surprised into obedience, did as he was told. And then there was the time that a maid, new to the Tulane household and eager to impress her employers with her diligence, came upon Edward sitting on his chair in the dining room. It was annoyance that he had been so mightily inconvenienced. "Nonsense," said Abeline's father jovially. "But what difference did it make that she was so beautiful? You must help me or there will be consequences." "That answers that question," thought Edward as he watched the hat dance away on the wind. He experienced his first genuine and true emotion. "Direct from the sea," said Lawrence. They lacked the elegance and artistry of his real clothes. Edward felt a weariness so intense wash over him. The birds flew with insistence. He was walking without any assistance from anybody. He had wings of true magnificence. After a long silence, the doll spoke. "Goodbye and good riddance," thought Edward. "I am pleased to make your acquaintance," she said. So those are the sentences here for. Remember to look at the table in the slide before this and sort the words accordingly. Have a lovely weekend and until next time, stay safe.